Jay, that's strangely close to Daniel Jones from the Giants. Daniel, is that you? Beat the Chiefs. Show me. If the Broncos and Russell Wilson can show me that they can beat the Chiefs, then I will start believing.
And the crowd up. And so are this defense, and Kansas City won't snap the ball again. The Denver Broncos have beaten the Kansas City Chiefs.
Dave Montgomery on the Lions, former Bear, gonna make this his revenge game for sure. David Montgomery gets the touchdown that ices the game. No! And there's a flag. There's flags. There's flags. There's flags. There's flags. Snap. Hold. Kick.
Denver wins! Denver wins! Let's go!
They open. No!
What happened? Oh shit.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the only football podcast tonight. Aaron Rodgers has finally signed with a team, and it was the team a lot of us expected for the last month, 2 months or so. It is the Pittsburgh Steelers. He is no longer holding him hostage. It is no longer the Aaron Rodgers waiting game. He is a Pittsburgh Steeler. Jaire Alexander has been released by the Packers. I'm going to talk about some landing spots that he's going to have. We've got some Kirk Cousins news. We've got some Nick Chubb news. No Kyle today, so no chives, but I will be doing my comment of the stream. Let's get it. America is football.
America is football. Football is America. If you don't like it, you can kiss your candy ass on the moment in time. I don't give a damn. Oh my God.
No.
You loved it.
It's 30-27. Chiefs win. Chiefs win 30-20. Woo! Let's go. Cheers, everybody. All right. What is going on? It is going to be a solo show, a solo dolo by your boy Rick tonight. Kyle is at a wedding in Florida. So he's having the time of his life. He said, hey, this is how much Kyle loves to stream and talk NFL. He's like, I can do it from my phone, Rick. We can make this happen. And I said, Kyle, look, I know you want to do it. I know the phone thing will work, but you go have fun. Take some time to yourself, because Kyle's a hardworking guy, as he said on the stream before. So he deserves some time off, some time to hang out with family, with friends, have a couple drinks, dance a little bit at a wedding, be in Florida with the nice weather, maybe at the beach, So Kyle definitely needs his little rest and relaxation time. Oh, there's a fly. Damn fly. Little gnat. God damn it. So it is going to be a solo episode tonight, and I just want to give a huge shout out to everybody here in the comments. As you guys can see, we have the little comment box, so all your comments will be seen on stream. Daniel Barry, happy Monday. Good signing by Pittsburgh. Nick, we got Nick in the chat. What is up, fellas? A-Rod the Ancient is a Steelers. Yes, he is. And we got our boy Richard. What's up, everyone? Richard, Nick, Daniel. Always great to see you guys here. Always great to start the stream and immediately have like multiple likes on the video, which is like awesome to see. Obviously, sorry, this and that is bothering the shit out of me. Stupid, annoying shit. Always great to see the likes, kind of roll in. At least on YouTube is where I can really see them mostly. I don't know about Twitch or X, but YouTube is always great to see you guys just like that stream immediately. So really a huge shout out to you guys. Again, you got the comments here. so you guys can see all the comments. It's just going to be me tonight, but let's get into it. And actually, before I begin, I'm going to toot my own horn here. I'm going to pat myself on the back, although it's not really a pat myself on the back or a toot my own horn, but it is my birthday today. And I am the Walter Payton year today at midnight. Last night, I turned 34 years old. So I am the Walter Payton age as of today, last night, whatever you want to say it. So I had a really awesome weekend with my wife, took me to a Beatles tribute concert, which was sick because the Beatles are my favorite band of all time. It was really cool. They were playing all the hits. It was great. Had some dinner at one of my favorite Italian restaurants here in town. Saturday we went to Seattle, stayed in Seattle for pretty much all day Saturday. Went to like a Panda Fest, went to go eat at one of my favorite seafood boil places. My wife planned out a really, really awesome time. So huge ups to her. Sunday we did, we came back home. We kind of hung out at the pier there in Seattle, walked a ton. Got my 10,000, 11,000 steps in yesterday. So, I got to just gorge myself on Friday and Saturday. And then I walked it all off on Sunday there in Seattle, came back home. I played some Call of Duty, which was really, really fun. Kind of just hung out here in my man cave. And then earlier today, she had set up a couple's massage, and that was nice. That was very, very, very needed by her. So that was really nice. Hung out in the backyard. But it, just a really chill, fun birthday weekend. So huge, huge, huge ups to the wifey for planning a sick birthday weekend. So, and Richard, thank you. He said happy birthday. Appreciate it, Richard. Thanks, man. Richard is a Packers fan, and he's still wishing me a happy birthday. This is the love that we have here on the Only Football Fam. All right, we could be bitter rivals on the football field, but it's always, always, always love at the end of the day and at the end of the season and all of that. Right, Richard? Love you, brother. All right, but let's get to it. Let's talk about probably the biggest news so far this last couple weeks. And that is Aaron Rodgers is finally signed to a team. He is going to be the Steelers quarterback. And oddly enough, it was right before he signed. He signed Friday, I believe. Friday or Thursday. I can't remember exactly when he signed, but I was going to make a short because Kyle and I were talking. We're like, we got to make some more shorts. We got to get some more stuff out there, like volume over quality, quantity over quality at this point, right? Just to get some more people in here. But I was going to make one and be like, Steelers Nation, just ride the Mason Rudolph mediocre train for this season. Because as we all know, the Steelers under Mike Tomlin, they love to not end the season below 500. We know that. It's been a thing for the last several years. Basically, Mike Tomlin's entire time there with the Steelers. And that's kind of hurt them more than it's helped. Don't get me wrong, you're finishing above 500. That's like the last 2-3 seasons, the Steelers that we've seen have made it to the wild card round and have just gotten the brakes blown off them, right? Like they're not good. And I'm frozen. You guys can still hear me, I think, and I'm unfreezing. Okay, cool. All right. Sorry. So if you guys can't hear me, just put it in the chat and I'll try to repeat what I said because I usually have just Kyle for that. But finishing above 500 with Mike Tomlin, that would be great if you're winning 12 games and you're finishing above 500, right? Like that type of not record, but streak with Mike Tomlin as your head coach would be awesome if you're winning 11, 12, 13 games. And you can see some seasons where they have finished well above 500, but then you're talking about 9-8 seasons, 10-7s that really don't get them anywhere. Like they go into the playoffs, and as a Steelers fan, you're like, awesome, right? Awesome. This is great. But you're also like, well, we don't have a very good pick in the draft. Ben Roethlisberger was in Pittsburgh for a long, long, long time. And with him at quarterback, you always had a really good shot in the playoffs, regardless of your record. But over the past 2-3 seasons, it's just that hasn't been the case. It's been Kenny Pickett. It's been Russ. It's been Justin Fields. It's been Mitch Trubisky. And it just has not been good. So that's why I was going to make that short and be like, guys, just ride the mediocre train. Finish below 500. It sucks, but when Poles came into the Bears, I'm going to reference the Bears because I'm very, very familiar with the situation, obviously. But he ripped the team apart. He got rid of Khalil Mack. He released a ton of other well-known faces, right? Eddie Jackson. He stuck with Justin Fields for 2 seasons or so, and then was like, you know what, whatever, this isn't going to work, right? And then they were really, really bad one year, got the number 1 overall pick, traded it to the Panthers for next season's number 1 overall pick, sucked that year kind of, for the most part again. We're able to draft Caleb Williams, draft Roma Dunze, made some moves in free agency, bringing people in. The offensive line is better. It took a few seasons for the Bears to be where they're at now with Ben Johnson as their head coach and a much brighter outlook for us Bears fans moving forward. Look, Aaron Rodgers gives the Steelers a much better chance than your Justin Fields, than your Russ Wilsons of the last couple seasons, including your Kenny Pickett's. But unless Rodgers somehow has this year where it was like, back when he was winning MVPs, his second to last season, I believe, with the Packers. I can't remember if he won the MVP that year, but you know what I mean? Like 4 years ago, Aaron Rodgers on the Steelers makes a big difference. And you're probably with TJ Watt there in that defense, and a lot of, and what you had as offensive weapons there in terms of wide receivers, running backs, yada, yada, yada. Aaron Rodgers 4 years ago, that would have been a big move, man. That would have been a huge move. Unfortunately, it's just not the same Aaron Rodgers anymore. We saw him struggle last year with the Jets. The year prior to that is he second, fourth play of the game or whatever, the first game of the season, destroyed his knee. He came back and played extremely mediocre last year with the Jets after the Jets pretty much were like Super Bowl, not favorites, but like everyone was like, this team can go to the Super Bowl because of that defense, right? That defense with Aaron Rodgers and the pieces already put in there in the offense, this is going to look good. But now, yeah, you have DK Metcalf there. Yeah, you still got Warren. You've still got, they just drafted a kid, I believe, out of in the draft, running back. I can't remember if they did or what his name was if they did. Either way, it's just it's not really hitting the same. Like, yeah, you still got TJ Watt. The defense can still be really, really good and disruptive. With Aaron Rodgers, with this version of Aaron Rodgers now in his 40s, I believe, right? He's like 49 years old or whatever the hell. I just can't see this Steelers team really, really making any sort of bigger jump than last year. Now, I'm going to look up the Steelers record because I think they had won 10 games. They were 10-7. Again, 3 games above 500. They'd started the season off 4-2 with Justin Fields, and they're like, you know what? We don't want the Bears to get a second-round pick or third-round pick, whatever it would have become. Let's bench Justin Fields, bring in Russ, and for those first few games, it was cool. Now, 10-7 with a quarterback in Russell Wilson that similar to Aaron Rodgers, if you're going to ask me who I would take right now, Aaron Rodgers or Russ, it's probably Aaron Rodgers. But that doesn't really mean much, at least to me. Now, I don't know what Kyle would say in this situation. Maybe he'd be leaning more towards Aaron Rodgers is still going to have a good year. The Steelers are going to be a team to watch. They're going to be playoff bound. But what does playoff bound mean, right, with Aaron Rodgers? So to me, with Aaron Rodgers, he's a Steelers quarterback. He signed a 1-year deal. And it was a 1-year, $13.6 million contract that includes $10 million guaranteed and worth up to $19.5 million. There was incentives in this deal. But those incentives for him to reach the $19.5 million are going to be very, very difficult to get to. So I'm just trying to see if I can see, or if it states the incentives here. I'm not seeing it right now. I just had read an article that it said that it's probably very difficult for him to do that unless like the Steelers win the Super Bowl. We got Crooked Commish in the chat. What's up, Crooked? CC, we're going to call you CC. I think I said that last time, but I couldn't remember. CC, I hope you're good with that. Commish. But what's up, man? Thanks for being in the stream. Talking about Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, so the incentives I don't have in front of me, but the article that I read was basically saying like, hey, unless they win the Super Bowl, he's probably not reaching that 19.5, almost $20 million payout here. So yeah, to me, I don't know what you guys think in the chat with Aaron Rodgers going to the Steelers. We already saw Nick's comment. A-Rod the Ancient is a Steeler. And that's kind of where we're at, right? Like 2 years, this is going to be his second season after his injury that he sustained with the Jets. So he might be better. It might be something that is going to take a couple years, and is, this being the second year that it takes for him to kind of come back and be the Aaron Rodgers of 3 years ago that we know that was slightly better, didn't have a great season, but could still kind of throw the ball and kind of do what you need to do as a quarterback. Again, I just don't think that this puts the Steelers necessarily over the top in terms of winning the division or even winning a playoff game if they get there with the wild card. Are they better with Aaron Rodgers than Russ and maybe even Justin? Definitely better than Russ. Justin, at least Justin can run. He had a 4-2 record last year. He's a dynamic guy, but also I dealt with Justin for 3 years. So I know there's not really the expectation shouldn't be high with Justin Fields, regardless. Bro, I hope when we play him, we beat the shit out of him. I don't want him hurt. Just a flat out bad game, 3 interception kind of game. Yes. And that's one of the interesting things too, is because, they sign Aaron Rodgers. Week 1 is against the Jets. So the Jets are either going to be able to kind of be like, hey, thanks for nothing. We're going to beat your ass, hand the Steelers their week 1 loss. Because they are playing them week 1. I forget if it is at the Jets or if it is in Pittsburgh. Regardless, the Jets get to have a chance at a revenge game. And I don't really know if Aaron Rodgers really has a revenge game for the Jets, but the Steelers also play the NFC North. So Aaron Rodgers is going to be able to go against the Packers. He's going up against the Bears, like you're talking about, CC, and the Lions and the Vikings. So he's going to be able to go up against the NFC North one more time, which I think is fun too. And Kamish, I'm hoping the same thing as this comment. 3 backs there for Montez Sweat, Odeyingbo, Grady Jarrett, any of these guys on the defensive line for the Bears, throwing a couple sacks there, throwing a few interceptions by Jalen Johnson, Tyreek, Kyler Gordon, something like that. I do want Aaron Rodgers to play the Bears and lose badly against them. Because let's be real, And Commish knows this. He's owned the Bears for a while. He owned the Bears for basically his entire career. Take a couple seasons there where he didn't. But yeah, I would want the Bears to beat them. I'm sure the Jets want to beat them. Pittsburgh, I haven't taken a look at Pittsburgh's schedule. But if you're playing the NFC North, it's already going to be a tough 4 games for you regardless, right? So the NFC North plus the Jets, plus the Ravens twice, the Bengals twice, the Browns twice, and the Browns are dealing with their own kind of thing, but they're still division rival and it's still going to be a good game. Pitt is definitely putting all their eggs in one basket. Karen gets hurt. Pitt is done. Yeah, because they have Mason Rudolph, and I'm trying to see the Steelers drafted Jalen Milroe. Did they not? Draft 2025. Oh, so they did get Caleb Johnson from Iowa. Jack Sawyer on the defense. Okay, so no. Will Howard. That's who they got. Will Howard, not Jalen Milroe. Milroe is on the Seahawks, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But Will Howard. So, yeah, honestly, the Ohio State cut. Yeah, QB. Yeah, yep. Will Howard, exactly. Thank you. So you got Mason Rudolph. You've got Will Howard there kind of sitting there on the bench to come in at a moment's notice if needed, right? And obviously more than likely it's going to be Mason Rudolph. But again, I don't think this necessarily takes them above where they were going to be with Russ or with Justin, because I think initially that's who they thought they wanted to go with. That's who they said they wanted to go with. It's like, hey, yeah, we might stick with Justin. We might stick with Russ. Russ goes to the Giants. Justin gets signed on by the Jets, which will be funny because obviously the Steelers and Jets play week 1. It's going to be Justin versus his old team, Aaron Rodgers versus his old team. So that'd be a good time. Good week 1 thing. But the way Joe Burrow played last year, the way Lamar played last year, those two teams are going to be 1 and 2 in the division in my eyes. The Steelers just don't have enough yet. And this may be, this is something that I heard, one of the podcasts I listened to. This could very well be one of the last hurrahs for Mike Tomlin. This could be his final year with the Steelers because, like I said earlier, you're finishing above 500, Tomlin, with the Steelers team that is not very good, that hasn't been dominant in a really long time now. Defense is a different story, but the team as a whole has just not been dominant. So could this be the last hurrah for them? Because they're sticking with Aaron Rodgers unless an injury hits. They're sticking with Aaron Rodgers unless an injury hits. So really, at the end of the day, this may be the last hurrah for them. It also may be one of the first seasons that Tomlin finishes under 500. Again, the Steelers, just naming off the NFC North opponents and their own division opponents, are going to have a tough schedule. And I'm actually going to look up their schedule right now just to kind of get an idea as to who they're going to be playing. Yeah, Richard thinks so as well. So let's see their 2025 schedule. So they are at New York, the Jets. They play Seattle, who just got Sam Darnold. Yes, they got rid of DK Metcalf, but we got to remember that they do have JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba, who was breaking out last year, for the most part. I would say I think is going to be a very decent wide receiver moving forward with them. Definitely a number 1. Chicago Clubhouse Network, always down for some Bears talk. Oh, hey, Chicago Clubhouse Network. I would love that. That'd be sick. Maybe send us an email and maybe we could get something together. That'd be fun. Maybe I could go on your show. You could come on here. It would be a good time. But back to the schedule. So the Jets have a pretty decent defense. They've still got some weapons on offense. Justin Fields is going to be the quarterback. Seahawks, we just talked about them. They are at New England week 3. Mike Vrabel, Drake May, Stephon Diggs, wide receiver 1. I think an overall improved Patriots teams over the last couple compared to the last couple of years. Then they play at home against the Vikings. Vikings are going to be tough. We'll see how they do with JJ McCarthy at quarterback. Week 5, they have a bye, so an early bye for the Steelers. Then they play the Browns. Go to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. At home versus the Packers and the Colts, which I think the Colts might be one of their easier games, depending on how they're doing by week 9. At the Chargers, which is going to be a tough one. At home against the Bengals. At the Bears, week 12. Buffalo Bills, Ravens, Dolphins, Lions, Browns, Baltimore. That's how they end their season. I think I'm going to call it now. This is going to be the first year that this Mike Tomlin-led Pittsburgh Steelers team is going to finish below 500. I'm calling it now. The 2025 Pittsburgh Steelers will finish the year below 500 win total. They have a tough schedule, guys. I'm going to name them all again. Week 1, at Jets. At home, Seattle. At the Patriots. Versus the Vikings. Versus the Browns. Sorry, there's a bye after the Vikings. Versus the Browns. At Cincinnati. Versus the Packers. Versus the Colts. At LA Chargers. Versus the Bengals. At the Bears. Versus the Bills. At Baltimore. Versus the Dolphins. At Lions. At Browns. Versus the Ravens, week 18. This comment right here, maybe. That's what I'm saying. It might be the last hurrah. It might be the last hurrah for this Mike Tomlin-led team with the Steelers. This is a tough schedule that the Steelers have. And let's say they do. They're going to be in a much better position to draft a better quarterback, right? There was a few quarterbacks that we had named a couple episodes ago that were scheduled to be draft ready next draft for 2026. Maybe the Steelers get one finally, right? Because for the longest time they had Ben Roethlisberger, and then after Ben Roethlisberger retired, it was like, all right, Pickett. We'll go with Pickett. Pickett didn't work out. Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, any of the other backups that they had, right? And now they go with Aaron Rodgers. I think it's going to be a very, very tough year for the Steelers and Steelers fans. I'm not going to say I hope I'm wrong, because they play the Bears, and it would be great for the Bears to have a great AFC win against an AFC North team. And if that's the Steelers, it's the Steelers. So I kind of hope that happens. I kind of hope it goes that way. Now, again, Aaron Rodgers, how will he do? Who knows? I'm not expecting any crazy year by Aaron Rodgers whatsoever. It's probably going to be another mediocre year like last year. I just know that DK Metcalf is probably happier that it's Aaron Rodgers throwing him the ball than Mason Rudolph, if we're all being honest with each other. And I'm sure Mason Rudolph is like, damn it, I was this close to starting, right? This year. So good luck to Aaron Rodgers. Good luck to Steelers. Good luck to Mike Tomlin. Steelers fans, I don't know if you guys have a lot to look forward to this year, even with Aaron Rodgers. The Aaron Rodgers news is much better than starting with Mason Rudolph. But again, in my eyes, you guys should have just stayed with Mason Rudolph, had the mediocre year that you would definitely expect to have. Now it's maybe a little bit more up and down. I just still think it's going to be below 500 for these guys. And then maybe you have a top 10 pick. Get your pick at whoever the quarterback is. Maybe, spice up the deal. If you're bringing in Jack Sawyer and you see something good from him on the defensive side, this is a weird thing to say, but think about TJ Watt. Think about, trading him during the draft to get a better pick from some team that maybe finishes with a bad record, but isn't necessarily quarterback needy, right? Try to work your way up to top 5 at least. See who you can get at quarterback. See who sticks out, right? So I don't know. Good luck to them. Good luck to Aaron Rodgers, the Steelers, all that stuff. But I just can't see a very good season from the Steelers. On a side note, do you think the Bears miss out on not signing Chubb? I'm actually going to save that question here in a sec, Kamish, for when we get to that segment here in a bit. There's no guarantee that Rodgers will stay healthy, so Rudolph may have a chance. 100%. I think we see Rudolph sometime this season. It's just hard to pinpoint when. The only for sure time we're going to see Mason Rudolph is, like you said, if Rodgers gets injured. If, he's got a sprain, something to that, likeness or whatever. Maybe it's a week 18 against the Ravens. Maybe it's week 17 against the Browns when the Steelers are clearly kind of not in it. And Aaron Rodgers, again, is maybe battling some fatigue, soreness, illness, injury, whatever have you, right? So, that's really like, again, for sure we'll see Mason Rudolph if he gets injured and is out for the season or something like that, or out for a few weeks. But other than that, I can't really pinpoint exactly when we will see Mason Rudolph. Okay. Moving on. Let's move on here. So we're going to be talking about Jaire Alexander. The Packers have released Jaire Alexander, two-time Pro Bowler, two-time second team, all second team NFL. But 3 of the last 4 seasons, he has played in exactly half the games that he had a chance to. And that is a mixture of primarily injuries and a couple of he received a week 17 suspension due to conduct detrimental to the team. So there was a point, where was it? Last year, I believe, 23 or 24. Those seasons, one of those seasons is when he received that suspension that was detrimental to the team. So he gets released by the Packers. They were trying to work on some sort of trade to a team and also an extension of sorts. That never really materialized. It's hard as Jaire Alexander for any team to look at him and be like, oh, need him, we'll give up a 3rd rounder. You know what I mean? Like, it's tough to do that given his injury history. But when he's not injured, he's definitely one of the better cornerbacks in the league. It's just, again, it's tough for any team to be like, yeah, I'll give up a 3rd rounder. Yeah, I'll give up a 3rd this year, a 5th next year, something like that. Ultimately, he gets released by the Packers. Now, let's talk about some landing spots. And I'm going through CBS Sports here to kind of go through these landing spots. I'm not entirely sure what teams around the league are very cornerback needy, and Kamish cannot agree with you more. I think we're good at cornerback. Kyler Gordon, Jalen Johnson, and Tyreek Stevenson, I think, are going to be a good trio there, including the nickelback with Gordon. But yeah, zero interest in bringing him on there. I mean, he'd be a really good veteran presence, maybe to help out a guy like Tyreek Stevenson, or even some of the rookie guys, some of the guys who haven't started very many games for the Bears. But honestly, if he got suspended for conduct detrimental to the team, and yes, it was only 1 week, but you don't really want to ruin the culture that Ben Johnson is creating in Chicago right now with a guy who has been suspended. I'm sure there's plenty of guys on the team now that haven't gotten suspended and don't necessarily like bring the best culture, but it's still kind of like in that process with Ben Johnson. It's his first off season. It's going to be his first season as a head coach with the Bears. So let's see what he does. But going back to Jaire Alexander, CBS has laid out a few teams that can possibly use Jaire Alexander's services. Now we got to remember, Jaire Alexander's only 28 years old, right? And for a cornerback, that's still like prime. We're talking about 33, 34 is probably getting towards like the end of your prime as a cornerback. So he's 28 years old. He's still got plenty of gas left in the tank. The only worry is availability for Jaire Alexander. Now, first team that CBS Sports lists is the Miami Dolphins. They're trying to figure out the Jalen Ramsey situation. Jalen Ramsey is trying to get either an extension. No, I'm sorry, not an extension. He's trying to get traded somewhere else away from Miami. I think that was pretty clear at the end of the year too. Even when Tyreek Hill was talking about that, and now he wants to stay in Miami. Jalen Ramsey definitely does not. I think he wants to go to a contender again. He was on the Rams when they won the Super Bowl, so he kind of wants to taste that success one more time. But the Dolphins would be a good spot for him if they do end up getting rid of Jalen Ramsey. He would immediately be the number one guy there. Again, it's about the availability at that point. I think Xavier Howard too was there with the Dolphins, and him and Ramsey were like an awesome duo. It's just injuries again kind of hit them a little hard. Next team up is the 49ers. Now, if you guys follow football, and I'm assuming you do because you are watching this podcast right now, you know the 49ers just let go of a ton of their defensive players. They had to move a lot of players because not only did they pay Brock Purdy, but they also paid their linebacker, whose name I'm forgetting right now. If you guys could remind me in the chat, their linebacker. Oh my God, what's his name? I see his face, dreads and everything on the 49ers. He's a very, very good linebacker. But Niners, part of that offloading of defensive talent was Charvarius Ward. So you bring in Jalen Ramsey, or I'm sorry, not Jalen Ramsey, Jaire Alexander for the 49ers. Again, he immediately becomes a number one cornerback for the 49ers. It's not even a question, right? Because the 49ers are going to be starting a journeyman Trey Brown, third round pick Upton Stout, opposite of Diomedor Lenoir, which Lenoir, if it sounds familiar, he's definitely one of their better defensive backs on the 49ers. Now, the 49ers, I'm trying to see here. The 49ers do have a lot of cap, especially obviously after getting rid of so much talent on the defensive side. So they are able to take on a contract like Jaire Alexander, what have you. So the 49ers are also a landing spot. Now, KC in the chat, Fred Warner. That's exactly what I was talking about. Happy birthday, Rick. Thank you, Casey. I appreciate the birthday wishes. And yes, you answered my question. It is Fred Warner. Thank you for reminding me. They just signed Fred Warner. The 49ers did. So thanks, Casey. I knew I could count on you guys. Next team that they have on listed on here is the Philadelphia Eagles. Now they have really good cornerbacks in Philly. You saw what they were able to do not only during the season last year, but also during the postseason, specifically with that kid from Iowa pick-sixing Mahomes, right? Kamish, happy birthday. Cheers. Thank you. You guys, anybody have a drink, water, a beer, whatever? Let's cheers to my birthday. Appreciate you guys. So now Philly, it's a little weird, I think, to want to add him there. Because he got Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean. They're saying adding Alexander to the mix would allow them to better replicate what they had last year with Mitchell, Slay, and slot corner Cooper DeJean. Oh, because they let Darius Slay walk. That's right. So Darius Slay is no longer on the Eagles. So I guess bringing him in wouldn't be bad because you could slot corner Cooper DeJean. He just seems, I guess that's more of a natural fit for him. I don't know, man. I don't know if he'd be a good fit for the Eagles. I don't know if Eagles fans are necessarily clamoring for another cornerback. I think they're going to be okay. Kelly Ringo, Adoree Jackson. Are there other corners there? So I don't know, maybe give him a shot, but I don't know. I don't think Eagles fans are like, hey, bring in Jaire Alexander either, right? The next team is the Rams. Again, I'm thinking of Jalen Ramsey. Their cornerback situation is a bit more settled with Darius Williams and Akella Witherspoon on the outside and Quentin Lake in the slot. Level, I don't know if this one necessarily I like either. So far, I'm liking the 49ers and the Dolphins, not necessarily the Eagles or the Rams. They have 4 more teams on here. The other team they have is the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore signed Chidobe Awuzie to play opposite of Nate Wiggins. And they're saying that Jaire Alexander is the more talented player over Chidobe. Yeah, probably, I would say. This one kind of makes a little bit more sense for the Ravens to bring in too, because Nate Wiggins again was a rookie last year, so he's coming in his second year. You can learn, these guys could learn something from a guy like Jaire Alexander. Again, 2-time Pro Bowler, 2-time All NFL second team. So I think it brings in a good veteran presence. So far, I'm liking the Ravens. I'm liking the 49ers. I'm liking the Dolphins. Now, these next few teams, the Vikings. With Brian Flores, their defensive coordinator, I don't think this would be a bad fit at all either. You already bring him to a Vikings defense that was outstanding last year. And again, you're bringing Brian Flores with his creativity and his exotic looks. I still don't understand what exotic looks are on the defense. So I think this one works as well. Dallas Cowboys. I kind of like that one too. Trayvon Diggs had an injury. Darren Bland is basically their cornerstone of that defense in terms of defensive backs. Jaire Elam was a first rounder who hasn't lived up to that. Honestly, maybe you could bring him to the Cowboys. I don't think it's a great fit, but I think it's a better fit than a couple of these other teams. And lastly, the Atlanta Falcons, who have AJ Terrell there as cornerback. You bring in Alexander, you've got a very fearsome duo there. Again, Jaire Alexander is only 28 years old, guys. Again, barring any injuries in the next couple of years, he could be a shutdown corner. He could be one of the better corners in the league if he just has the availability for it, right? Like he signed that deal with the Packers and just immediately could not stay healthy. So I don't know. Maybe Jaire Alexander's probably going to get the rest of his contract the next 2 years or so, or maybe like a 1-year flyer on some of these teams. But with the Falcons, I think it would be another good place for him to land there. 28 years old, he's still got plenty of gas in the tank. So Falcons, yes. Vikings, yes. Dallas Cowboys, Ravens, yes. 49ers and Dolphins, yes. I'm going to go hard no on Eagles and Rams, but we'll see where he ends up. I think it's interesting with Jaire Alexander, right? How I keep saying, like, he's still got plenty of time, plenty of gas in the tank left, right? It's just like that availability, man. The injury sucks, because if the Bears didn't have Jalen Johnson, or if they only had Jalen Johnson, I'd be raising my hand and being like, let's get this guy. Let's get Jaire. Let's bring him over to the Chicago Bears. We've already got our head coach from the Lions. Let's bring in a former Packer to play corner. And the Vikings, I don't know, we stole Caleb Williams from you, I guess, in a sense, right? After all that stuff with Seth Wickersham's reports came out, his book coming out September was talking about Caleb Williams really liked Kevin O'Connell and stuff like that. So I don't know, maybe bring in a former Viking, and we've just got a team full of NFC North rivals on that team. But yeah, if we didn't have if we only had Jalen Johnson on the Bears, I'd say bring Jaire over. Honestly, we probably would have drafted some rookies in this draft, but still bring him over, right? Like depth is great, especially at the cornerback position. But those are the teams to watch, according to CBS, for Jaire Alexander. We'll see where he ends up. We will see where he ends up. It is going to be interesting again. given the age, given his accolades, but having to consider his injury history is going to be a fun watch for whatever team brings him on. Okay. Moving on. Nick Chubb signs with the Texans. So we have a 1-year deal worth at least $2.5 million and can be worth up to $5 million for Nick Chubb. Casey said you got Joe Thuney from the Chiefs. That's going to help the Bears. Oh yeah, Casey. Oh yeah. And we just extended him as well. So he's going to be in Chicago for the next 3 years, I believe. 3 or 4 years. So that's going to be cool. But yeah, thank you for that. I wanted the other guy, your left tackle, but we'll take Joe Thuney, all pro guard. Texans signed Nick Chubb, again, 1 year, $2.5 million deal that can be worth up to $5 million. Now the Texans already have Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon did pretty well for the Texans last season. Even in the playoffs, like it was a great showing by Joe Mixon, and it almost seemed like Joe Mixon wanted to tell the Bengals, like, look what you gave up, right? And the Bengals got their own situation with their running backs going on, but for the most part, Joe Mixon had a really good season with the Texans. They just got absolutely shut down by the Chiefs in that second round of the playoffs. And I'm sure Casey is like very much like, yeah, that was fun. But Chubb was injured last year as well. He's been with Cleveland forever. Let's see. Yeah, because if he had re-signed with Cleveland, the Browns had drafted Quinshon Judkins, Dylan Sampson. They already have Jerome Ford back there. And Jerome Ford at this point seems to be the better option than Chubb, which again, it's injuries for Chubb that are really kind of holding and have been holding him back for most of his career. I'm trying to see how old Chubb is because I think he's like 29, 30. If I'm not mistaken, I think he is 30 years old. Let's see. Nick Chubb, age 29. And he won't be 30 until December. So he'll turn 30 during the season, during the 2025 season, which is usually, again, is something that I've read and have seen, is like 30 is usually like, okay, it's downhill time for these running backs. And obviously, King Henry is one of the exceptions to the rules so far after the season he had last year. But Nick Chubb signing with the Texans, it kind of gives a really good 1-2 punch there with Joe Mixon. I feel like Joe Mixon, he is a 3-down back, and so is Chubb, but Chubb's got a little bit more of that kind of knock you over, run you over. And I'm not saying that Joe Mixon doesn't have that. I just feel like Nick Chubb is probably the more fitting for that category. So, Joe Mixon is obviously going to be RB1, but Nick Chubb is definitely going to get a lot of playing time with the Texans, especially if CJ Stroud, who is having some trouble throwing during the OTAs, or just hasn't thrown during OTAs. There's something up with his shoulder, I believe, is what the issue is. They're going to be running the ball a lot if that seems to be the issue. And, it can't be fixed during this offseason, during this very short offseason for the Texans. Now, let's get to Kamish's question here. Do you think the Bears missed out on not signing Chubb? At first, after the draft, I would have said yes, Kamish. Kind of thinking about it now, not really. I don't think so, not really. In KC, interesting as always. I'm off to the airport to pick up my niece. I'll catch you later. KC, thanks for stopping by. Appreciate your comments. Appreciate the birthday wishes, man. safe travels to the airport and safe travels back from the airport. We'll see you next time. I wouldn't say necessarily missed out, Kamish. I think they had an opportunity. I think they're trying to see what Monangai looks like. I think they're trying to see what Roshan and DeAndre Swift look like behind this much more improved offensive line. So I don't think they necessarily missed out. I think Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson are like, okay, let's see what we can get out of these 3, 4, 5 guys, putting into the equation Travis Homer and Ian Wheeler from last season of Hard Knocks. If any of you guys remember Ian Wheeler, who's also like can be a doctor at any point, but he wanted to try to football out first. So I think they really just want to see who they have, what they have with who they have is what I should say. What they have with who they have. Can Roshan Johnson take the next step, which I feel like, and I think Bears fans and Bears brass have been like, I feel like he should have already, right? Now, obviously, the offensive line was bad. The coaching was bad. The running backs coach was bad. So I think they're like, hey, we've got some guys in here who can do damage. Let's see what they can do with all the improvements we made this offseason. So I don't think they missed out. I just think they were saying, okay, we'll see how the offseason kind of goes for us in terms of what running backs are available and what our running backs are doing well or not well. And we'll kind of reassess from there. Now, I'm definitely a fan who likes to have all the players you're going to play. They're going to play during the season, in OTAs, in mini camp, during training camp, have as many reps as possible with your quarterback, with your brand new head coach, with your OC, against your defense, right? But in this case, we have a pretty crowded running back room, talking about the Bears. So I think we should I think Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson are playing this smarter by saying, let's just figure out what we have. So I think the Texans jumped on it because they wanted just another guy back there who has an upside, but are very, very content with who they have in Joe Mixon. And Dameon Pierce, they still got on there. Dameon Pierce 2 years ago, it was like, oh, this is going to be the Texans' number one, running back. And he's been somewhat mediocre so far these last couple seasons, but they're very content with Joe Mixon. Let's bring in Chubb. Yes, he's got injuries. Yes, he's going to be 30, but let's see what he can do, because running backs have shown as of late that they are a position that you cannot go without in the NFL if you want to win a championship, if you want to be competitive. So again, I think it's a good move by them. He's definitely going to get his amount of carries. I think he's definitely going to be playing quite a bit with the Texans, but we'll see exactly how much of that he gets. Nick Chubb signing with the Texans. So let's move on. And before we move on, guys, please hit that like button on the stream. I would really appreciate it. Kyle would really appreciate it. Again, Kyle's not here. He is having a really, really good time down in Florida at a wedding, enjoying the weather out there, having a good time, taking some R&R, some rest and relaxation for himself. Because we all know Kyle's a hard worker, both on this podcast and at his job. So he's just taking some time to himself. But please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you haven't already, become a member for $2.99 a month. You get some some really cool emojis. We're going to start rolling out some more shorts, some more polls soon. It's just a bit of a, again, Kyle and I are both transitioning to other jobs, which makes it a little bit more difficult for us to make a little bit more content. But please hit that like, become a member. We would really appreciate it, because come football season, it is going to be awesome. We're going to be streaming all the games, a lot of the important games, a lot of the primetime games. It is going to be a great time. Bradley Clark with a question here. Thoughts on the Vikings, but you can't mention JJ McCarthy. That's Bradley, BC, Bradley Clark, BC. Come on. I feel like you know this, and the entire NFL knows this. The Viking season is just it clings on how well JJ McCarthy is going to do. Really, at the end of it, right? Because if he has a bad year, what do you do then, right? Like you start to have second thoughts about Sam Darnold. So I just thoughts on the Vikings, but you can't mention JJ McCarthy. You guys are bringing back a lot of the same guys from your defense. Brian Flores is still there. Kevin O'Connell is still your head coach and offensive mastermind. I think, again, it's not that I just can't not mention JJ McCarthy, right? Because how he does is going to really dictate how the season goes, in my opinion, for the Vikings. Sam Darnold looked like Sam Darnold on the Jets the last 2 games of the year, which kind of showed limitations to what someone like that could do with Kevin O'Connell's coaching, offensive scheme, and really going up against really tough defenses at the same time. So I think the defense for the Vikings will be similar, if not just marginally worse than last year, because when you look at defenses throughout the NFL over, last 100 or so years, you just can't be dominant year after year after year. You're going to have to take losses, scheme, coaches get taken from you by other teams. Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn being the 2 big ones this past offseason. I think it'll be marginally worse, if anything, and I still think it'll be a pretty good defense with Brian Flores there. Kevin O'Connell is going to do his best for that offense. You still got Jake Jettas, right? Like Justin Jefferson is still there. You've still got that bona fide star wide receiver. Addison is still going to be really good, but it really does all fall on how well JJ McCarthy does. And I know you don't want me to mention him, but it's kind of hard not to, right? When it's the most important position on the field for any football team. So hopefully I answered your question, even though I did mention JJ McCarthy like 4 times in that. It's just hard not to, really, with the situation there. Again, please hit that like button before you get out of here. And yeah, let's move on. So now Kirk Cousins, the Kirk Cousins situation. As soon as he was benched, not even that, it seems like as soon as Michael Penix was drafted number 6 overall by the Falcons, you saw the Falcons owner talk to the GM and be like, why are we drafting a quarterback? We just signed Kirk Cousins to this $100 million deal. And I'm going to get you guys the money here. 4 years, $180 million deal. Number 6 overall, who they pick? Michael Penix Jr. to be the eventual replacement. Last year, Michael Penix Jr. replaces Kirk Cousins as a starter. I forget exactly what week it was. If anybody knows, put it in the chat. That would be very, very helpful. But he replaces him. That is the most important part, is the fact that he did end up replacing Cousins. So now fast forward to the offseason. Kirk Cousins is saying, I can still start. I can still be a good quarterback on a team. So either trade me or you're going to pay me my guaranteed salary, which is $37.5 million guaranteed on Cousins' contract. Cousins' agent, and we've said this last year when he got signed by the Falcons, That's a Hall of Fame agent right there. That dude has gotten Kirk Cousins paid time and time and time and time again. And we're talking $100 million deals. So he's got over $37 million guaranteed this next season. The Falcons are trying to trade him. And Kirk Cousins is going to be at minicamp because that's just what Kirk Cousins does. He's a nice guy. He's a guy who understands his not priorities, but his like, you've got to do this. I'm going to do it. Like, he's the guy who's going to go to minicamp. He's the guy that's going to go to OTAs or whatever and be like, hey, I'm here because I'm still on this team, still making money. You guys are still paying me. I can show up, teach Michael Penix some stuff, teach the other quarterbacks some stuff, talk with the coaches, blah, 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 blah. But the Falcons are trying to trade him, and Kirk Cousins wants to trade as well. One of the things that I'm reading right now and that I read before that may be a little difficult is the Falcons want this team that they're whatever team that they're trading at least $20 million of the remaining 37.5 guaranteed. Not only that, but Kirk Cousins has a no trade clause. So let's say Falcons do find somebody to trade Kirk Cousins to, right? If he doesn't want to go to that team, he can veto that trade. So there's just a couple obstacles here, obviously, right? It's finding the team. It's having them be willing to eat that much of the contract. And it's letting Kirk Cousins basically have last word on that trade, whether he's like, yeah or no. Pittsburgh was definitely one of those teams that I feel like the NFL was or his agent or whatever, and a lot of people in NFL world, fans, owners, whatever alike, were looking at like, okay, maybe he can go to Pittsburgh. You probably give him a much better chance than Aaron Rodgers, which I think is an interesting question. Who would have given him a better chance at success, right? Kirk Cousins or Aaron Rodgers? Who fucking knows at this point? We know it's going to be Aaron Rodgers for Pittsburgh. But now the Saints are one of those teams that is kind of like, hey, maybe it is the Saints, but they're also a division rival. So it's going to be very difficult, I think, in my mind, for them to trade a quarterback to their division rival, the Saints. And you've also got, what's his face, the offensive coordinator for the Eagles last year, as the head coach now for the Saints. Saints head coach, Kellen Moore. Yes, Kellen Moore. Which I think would be great for Kellen Moore if they did trade him to the Saints again. They're division rivals, so I don't know. I find it difficult for that to happen. But I think for Kellen Moore, it would be pretty awesome for him to have a guy like Kirk Cousins, who's been around the league for so long, has made the money he's made, and is the person that he is, which is a pretty awesome person, to kind of come in and, you know, lead that team from the quarterback position and maybe just give some guidance to your Spencer Rattlers, to your whoever else they have after Derek Carr resigned, right? So I think it would be really cool for Kellen Moore to have a guy like Kirk Cousins be there, knowing that he's going to start. I think, honestly, throw out the the division rival stuff, and I think the Saints do go ahead with a trade with the Falcons here for a guy like Kirk Cousins. Honestly, I do. I you know, if they can both come to the agreement that, hey, yeah, we're going to see each other twice, and yeah, we don't really like each other that much. There's a bit of a rivalry on between these two teams, but we can go ahead and do business with each other. Like, yeah, let's do it. Let's pull the trigger. And, you know, Kirk Cousins doesn't have to travel that far. Louisiana, Georgia. It's not that far of a drive of travel for him and his family. I'm sure leaving Atlanta after a year sucks, especially after, him being excited to be a Falcon. But again, incredibly slim chances, I think, really, when you put into consideration the division rival stuff. But hey, who knows? The NFL is a crazy world. Aaron Rodgers is a Pittsburgh Steeler. Justin Fields is a New York Jet. Russ is on the Giants. It's a weird world. So, shit like this can happen, I think, in my head. But again, they want the Falcons want this next team to eat $20 million guaranteed contract. I don't know if that's going to happen. I really don't think that's going to happen. I think it would be tough. So we'll kind of keep tabs on Kirk Cousins here as we go through the rest of the offseason. And see where he ends up, if he does end up somewhere. If not, he's just going to get paid by the Falcons to be a backup. One of the most expensive backups in the league, really. Which would be the owner of the Falcons would be like, all right, what the fuck, guys? Unless they're winning games with Michael Penix, right? What do you guys think about Michael Penix? How do you think his year is going to go? Because the Falcons got some guys, man. Falcons depth chart 2025. Let's see. Yeah, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, obviously, Bijan, Tyler Algier, Darnell Mooney, Ray McLeod III. One of the things I did read is that the Falcons are really, really going to be leaning on Darnell Mooney a little bit more, which to me I thought was a little bit, I don't know. I don't think that was necessary to say. I think it'd be great if Darnell Mooney was even more effective than he was last year. Because, I mean, the first few weeks, Darnell Mooney was a number one wide receiver. He was hauling in a ton of catches for a ton of yards with a good amount of touchdowns. And you were almost like, damn, Drake London, you got this guy who is, pretty undersized in my opinion. What is he? 5'11", 26 years old, right? 992 yards, 5 touchdowns. Like, he was doing pretty well those first few weeks. Let's see. 8 for 66, 3 for 56, 9 for 105. Yeah. He had 3 of his 5 touchdowns in the first 5 weeks. Darnell Mooney did. So he was doing pretty well those first few weeks of the season. And it just seemed like Drake London was kind of like getting lost. That, right? Like, Drake London is 6'4", 5 inches taller than Darnell Mooney. Obviously, he had more receptions, more yards, more touchdowns. But at the beginning of the season, it did look a little lopsided, I would say. So again, I don't necessarily like the Falcons have guys on their team, right? I think Michael Penix should be able to have a pretty decent year that he has, because if you got Bijan Robinson in the running game and you got Tyler Algier behind him, makes the passing game a little bit better. And again, you hope Kyle Pitts can somehow, I don't know, just be the guy that everybody was expecting him to be, this beast, this monster. 602 yards, 4 touchdowns last year. Let's look at his career, because he had more the year prior, 60-ish yards more, 1 less touchdown. Like, last year's touchdown total of 4 was the most in his career so far. So it's very underwhelming how Kyle Pitts has been throughout his season. But again, Michael Penix Jr., I think, should have a very good year. I want to say a good year, not very good, but I want to say a good year, like a year you would expect the second-year quarterback to have after he's only played a handful of games a year prior, right? And let me just double check how many he did have last year, how many games he did play in. So he really took over week 16, 18 for 27, 202 yards, 1 interception, 19 to 35, 223 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 21 of 38, 312 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. That was week 18. So that was week 16 through 18. I think he should have a much better year for sure, being the full-time starter. And again, given the weapons that he does have, I feel like it should be a much better year for him for sure. All right, guys. Well, that is all I have got for tonight. I want to give a quick shout out to KC, to Richard, to Kamish, to Nick, Daniel Barry, Bradley Clark, and the Chicago Clubhouse Network. Thank you guys for being in the chat today. I really appreciate you guys being here. Again, before you leave, make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We would really appreciate it. And I am going to do my comment of the stream here. Where is it? I was looking for him. Okay, this one by Crooked Commish here, because I really do like this one. Out bad game, 3 interception kind of game, talking about Aaron Rodgers playing the Bears this season as the Steelers quarterback. I'm hoping the same, Kamish. I am hoping the exact same. I have been saying Aaron Rodgers in the Bears defense with our D coordinator just becomes a much more improved defense and can get to the quarterback more effectively, can actually stop the run too more effectively. We'll see how all that goes. But I'm hoping the same exact thing as this comment right here. Again, thank you guys so much for being here. Kyle and I really appreciate all the support, all the love, all the comments that we get, all the likes, everything that we get from you guys. Again, we're going to be generally just doing Mondays right now during the off season. Busy schedules. Got to keep it to a week, but we're going to do our best to put out more polls, put out more shorts, put out some more long form content for you guys, which I think would be great for this channel and for you guys. I'm sure you guys would really appreciate some more stuff from us. So we're going to do our best. Other than that, hit that subscribe button. Follow us here on YouTube. Go follow us on X at NFL with Kyle and at Only Football Pod. Don't pay attention to this at. I no longer have X. The only account that I can run is at Only Football Pod. We've got some exciting stuff happening behind the scenes with Kyle and I. So, you guys are going to be onto that very quickly. Possibly another logo change. We shall see. Other than that, thank you again, guys, for being here. Long live Bill. Thank you all for being here. And as always, good time, brothers. Always a good time.